dot attached LLM. This is going to be OpenAI augmented LLM. So basically, this is very important because we need to attach the LLM. As I said, this augmented LLM will need. Let's look at this. Let's see. Okay. Let's see what happens. Processing. Yeah, see. It opened it. Perfect. Let's ask it to scroll to the bottom. Scroll to the bottom. Let's see what happens. I've scrolled to the bottom. Yeah, see, let's scroll to the bottom. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to dive deep into an end-to-end MCP project where I'll be using Puppeteer MCP server to control the web pages, navigate the web pages, take screenshots, and execute JavaScript in a real browser environment. You can use Puppeteer MCP server to do whatever you want. So basically, we will open the web browser in a headless mode and we'll be able to do everything that we want, that we would want to do in a browser with the help of, this MCP agent that we are going to build today. Okay, so first let's look into the Puppeteer MCP server and how it is implemented. Okay, so as you can see right here, so if you just search Model Context Protocol /servers in Google, then you will be able to come across this GitHub repository where Puppeteer is implemented. So basically, Puppeteer is an online already hosted MCP server. So that provides this browser automation capabilities using Puppeteer, and it's absolutely free. So you can do web search, you can take screenshots, you can compile all the resources, you can use it however you want to. You can also, book flights, you can do whatever you want. Basically, the entire OpenAI operator, you can do it using this Puppeteer mode. And you just need to provide the commands here, and using that, you will be able to do it easily. So let's look at the tools that are provided by Puppeteer. So first thing is the Puppeteer Navigate. You can navigate to any URL in the browser. Just type the URL. I'll show you how to implement it completely, and how to implement the end-to-end project. It's very easy, I guarantee you that. But let's just understand what are the tools that are offered by Puppeteer and how we can use it for our needs. So Puppeteer, you can navigate to any URL in the browser. So these are all the inputs that you need to give. And screenshot, you can capture any screenshot of the entire page. Why would we need that? Because suppose we want to do summarization. Suppose we want to understand or you want to extract certain things from the web page. So in that case, instead of converting it into PDF and then uploading it into the ChatGPT or Claude or whichever LLM you are using, it's always better to just take a screenshot and get all the data. So that is why screenshot. And this is to click any elements, hover over any elements, fill any input tables. You can use it to fill all the forms that you want on any kind of feedback form, any kind of URL, and anything you want to, you can use it. Just say, OpenAI, do this for me. And you will be able to do it easily. And it's absolutely free. So, it's perfectly amazing. So you will be able to fill anything, you will be able to select something with the select tag, and you will be able to evaluate. For example, suppose you want to do console.log something. Suppose you want to, you can change the website using JavaScript. You want to change the background color. You want to do something else. Whatever you want to do, you'll be able to do it using this evaluate. Great. So you just need to run the script. Very easy. And okay, so these are not very important. So these are all the tools that we are going to provide to OpenAI or Claude or whichever one, and we'll be able to use it. So I'll use OpenAI today. So because most people use GPT for their regular needs, and Claude is not used by many. But I also have a project where I've used Claude as the Anthropic environment for an MCP server. So link right here. And here we are going to use OpenAI, because using OpenAI, I got many feedback from many comments that using OpenAI, you can actually plug in any kind of model that you want. So that makes it easier. Great. Okay, so now let's just go over a little glance. It's very important to understand how these MCP servers are implemented, because then you will be able to implement your own MCP server as well in the future. Which MCP kind of server you want, anything, maybe, understanding all the Excel documents and then getting all the data from there, seeing all the Word documents and then extracting all the data from there, extracting some particular kind of information from certain kind of PDFs, everything you can do using this MCP server and defining a set of tools. So let's see how these tools are defined. So this one, as you can see right here, this is the same GitHub repository. So we are going into these index.ts file. So they have used TypeScript to implement the MCP server. So these are all the tools that I mentioned: navigating to a URL, and this is the input schema. So what exactly does it do? This is here. So handle tool call method. Just check this out, handle tool call. So this see. So if it is puppeteer.navigate, then you will be able to go to that's so basically this tool call. So okay, so what happens is, like, in one sentence I can summarize is that, you know, the OpenAI, you tell the OpenAI that I want to go to this URL and take a screenshot. No, I want to go to this URL and get the summary of this page. I want to go to this URL and scroll to the bottom and understand what is there in the footer of the page. I want to fill this form. So with all these details. So when you give this to the OpenAI or GPT or Claude, so then what they do is that they understand the thing that you want to do. They have the list of tool calls. These all tool calls, input schema, everything is provided to the OpenAI. I will show the code, so don't worry about it. This is just an explanation and, you know, warming you all up so that you understand the code flow perfectly. Code is very small and very simple, but you need to understand this basic fundamentals. If you understand this once, then this will, you know, benefit you forever, because MCP is here to stay, to be very honest. And it's the next big thing. Okay, so jokes aside, everything aside, so let's just focus on this. So here you will be able to, the OpenAI will be able to provide the tool call to you saying that, okay, we'll use Puppeteer navigate first with this URL that you have given, provide the URL, this schema, it will provide this schema that I mentioned. This schema will be provided by the OpenAI itself. You don't need to do anything. And then when it gets this back, so then it's sent to the server. So then this handle tool call will be called with the name and the arguments that has been provided by OpenAI based on our request. Okay, so that's it. So as soon as that is provided, you know everything what to do. So this is what is done by the MCP server. It's able to open the Chrome in a headless mode. Headless means as in like a separate mode, testing mode, a separate Chrome, not the Chrome that we are using. So, and there it's able to do everything. It has complete control over it. Okay, so it's kind of like the OpenAI operator, but, you know, yeah. So this is much more simpler, much more better, and much more, you know, more accessible to people and free completely. No API key, nothing needed. Except the OpenAI, obviously API key you will need. Other than that, you don't need anything. Great. So now that we have this idea, now the next thing we are going to do is what library we are going to use. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is, once we have this Puppeteer out of the way, Puppeteer MCP server, next thing we are going to do is the MCP Agent library. So MCP Agent library is actually a kind of library which will help us to do everything. It will abstract everything out, and, you know, we will be able to use it for our needs. So let's look at the MCP Agent library once before we now start writing the code. Okay, so now if you just do a search on the web, I'll share the link, don't worry about it. So this is basically lastmile-AI, and it has provided this MCP Agent library. So what does it actually do? Let's see. So it's basically a very simple framework that helps us to build agents using MCP. So basically, as you can see, this is a basic finder agent that they have. So we are not going to go into this. Okay, so just this part you need to understand is that core components of MCP agent framework, because we are going to use that today. So it has an MCP app which has all the state and app configurations, and it has server management. So that is why, like, if you send a message to it and asking it to do some tool calls, it will do it and give you a return back. And then it will store what it has done, the entire conversation history, all the tool calls, everything it has done, it will store in the MCP server. In this library, it has the state management, which is very important. You can do it yourself as well, but I would recommend, if you are starting out, to use this to understand how it is used and then start implementing on your own. So this is an agent that has access to a set of MCP servers and exposes them to an LLM as tool call. And this one is an augmented LLM, which is like the OpenAI augmented LLM or Claude augmented LLM, whichever it is. So it basically provides 3 functions, out of which only 2 are important to us today. So generate means that you're going to give it a prompt. As I said, like, go to this website and then give me a summary of the footer. So this thing you will need to develop into, like, what are the tool calls that we can do. So first tool call would be this navigate. Next thing would be, you know, scroll to the bottom. Next thing would be taking a screenshot, third tool call. And this all things will be provided by the OpenAI or Claude itself. It will tell you which tool calls to make. It will tell you which tool calls to make in which order and with what arguments. And then the actual tool call execution, as I said, handle tool call method in this TypeScript that I mentioned, that will be done by Puppeteer MCP server that we are going to connect with this. So, and generate str is very important because it calls the generate internally and then returns the result as a string output. Because we need to understand what the, what the result has been, that what all has been executed by our environment, by our LLM, so that we know whether the LLM has failed something or not, whether we need to again instruct it properly, whether our job has been done or not. So like summary if we want. So we would want to see the summary, right? So that is why we are going to return the result as a string output that can be displayed on the screen. And this one, we are not going to go into it today. I'm going to show an example. So, yeah. Okay, so now that we have a good idea of the MCP agent library that we are going to use today and all the components of the MCP agent library and also the Puppeteer MCP server that we said. So now is the time to implement this entire thing into code. So open your VS Code. We are going to use VS Code today because we will need to locally host the MCP server ourselves. Otherwise, and this local MCP server will connect to the official MCP server, which is the Puppeteer one. So Google Colab will not be useful here. We are going to use an YML file because YML will have all the critical settings. So that is why we'll need just three main files. One is the main.py. Secondly is the YML file. And thirdly is the requirements.txt. That's it. That's literally it. So, and the code is very simple. So, just get ready and let's start coding. Okay, so first let's start with requirements.txt, which is like the most important thing ever because you will need to understand which libraries that we are going to use. So as you know, like already which libraries we are going to use, it's going to be the MCP agent library, OpenAI, because we are going to use the OpenAI GPT as our model. And we are going to use Streamlit because we want to develop an app because it's end-to-end. As I said, we are going to host it as well. And Streamlit apps are very easy to deploy as well. You just need to click the deploy button. And, I have already shown how to deploy it before. But, we are going to go over it today as well. So don't worry about it. And that's it. Yeah. So let's write the requirements.txt. First thing, as I said, is going to be Streamlit greater than equal to 1.28.0. Next thing is going to be MCP agent. It's going to be greater than equal to 0.0.14. And then OpenAI greater than equal to 1.0.0. And then async IO. Because our entire application is going to be async and await because we don't want to do a synchronized process. Because all these like MCP servers getting the reply back, if we just waiting on it, then our UI. Okay, so let's just break this down. So basically, why do we use async applications? Only because async means what? So basically, we send a request and then we wait for the request to come back, and only then we send in the next thing. So now if we don't wait for the request to come back using async, and if we are doing synchronously, that is like, sending it and then going over to the next one. So then what happens is the UI, the UI becomes very unresponsive. Why? Because the same thread is actually waiting for the response to come back. You can't scroll, you can't do anything, it's blocked. So rather than this, the best thing is to use async so that you are sending it asynchronously, the request, and then you are waiting for it to come back while the UI is responsive, everything is responsive, but the request hasn't come back yet. That is the main reason we use async IO here, async input output, because that's the easiest way to, manage all the applications. Always remember this. These are all like small things that will affect your web development and your ML, AI, every application that you make, every hackathon that you participate in, every interview, even your office jobs. Everything is dependent on these small important things. Okay, so now let's start writing the main application, which is the main.py. Okay, so let's start it. So first we are going to obviously import async IO. Next thing we are going to do is import OS. Why OS? Because we are going to need the OpenAI API key. That is why. And we are going to do export and in the terminal. So from that, we'll need to get it from the OS environment. And we are going to use Streamlit as the app that we are going to develop, the end-to-end deployable app. And from text wrap, we are going to import dedent. Dedent is just basically for string, to indent the string properly. Next thing is from MCP agent dot app. We are going to import MCP app. Next thing is from MCP agent dot agents dot agent. We are going to import agent. Next thing is from MCP agent dot workflows dot LLM dot augmented LLM OpenAI import OpenAI augmented LLM. So as I said, this augmented LLM that we are going to use today is going to use OpenAI's GPT under the hood. So again, in one line, I'll say we are going to ask it to summarize a particular page. So it will ask, go and turn to OpenAI, provide all the tool calls that we have for Puppeteer, and then ask OpenAI to generate all the list of the tool calls that we are going to need for this. So OpenAI augmented LLM is going to get all the tool calls and to understand our request and break it down into steps into all the tool calls with the proper input schema that will be needed based on our request. So here it will be asking first to navigate to the URL, and this will be provided by the OpenAI augmented LLM again. And next thing it will ask you to take a screenshot, and then next thing it would ask you to do a summary of the screenshot using OpenAI. Very simple. Okay, so next thing is going to be from MCP agent dot workflows dot LLM dot augmented LLM. We are going to import the request params. Why? Because in the augmented LLM, we are going to need it to pass the request parameters as well based on what we actually need. So one important parameter we are going to need today is to use the conversation history, because if we don't, because it's not going to be single one. Suppose you want to summarize and then after that you wanted to make a better summary, or take into consideration another URL as well for making the summary. So something like that. So that is why we are going to use history, the entire conversation history. We are going to ask it to use it. So that will be needed to be passed in through the parameter. Request parameters. Okay. The next thing is that comes is that st.set page config. The st.set page config is going to be page title would be Browser MCP Agent. Browser MCP Agent, and whatever anything else if you want to give, maybe layout as white and anything else, any icon or something, that's up to you. I'm not going to do it. So st means the Streamlit app that we are using. So then we are going to provide the markdown as basically let's do an h1 header. So that is not really very important, but you can do it if you want to. I like to make it a little bit, presentable. So that is why I'm using it. But if you don't, it's fine as well. So browser, okay, browser MCP agent. And then after that, it's going to be /h1. And then unsafe allow HTML is going to be true. And then after that, st.markdown is going to be interact with the powerful web browsing agent that can, just give a description as you want, that can navigate and interact with web browsers. This is a pretty cool one. Interact with websites, basically. Yeah. Basically gives a overall idea that we can use, an overall description of our website. If you want to make it if you want to make it public then and deploy it for everyone to use, then it's a good idea to invest some time into the layout, the UI, the UX. With GPT and all, it's very easy now to do that. The basic ones, at least, I would say. So make it a bit more readable, a bit more good to the eye, pleasing to the eye. Okay, so now in the sidebar, we are going to provide some instructions on how to use this. Sidebar, it's going to be st.markdown again. We are going to give some example commands. Maybe first time somebody is using it, they don't know what to do. So this is a good idea to help them. Now, next thing is going to be st.markdown is going to be navigation. Next thing is going to be st.markdown. Go to, I don't know, anything you want, wikipedia.org/wiki/computer vision. And then, I don't know, any kind of, this is an example of navigation that you can use. You can also use to interact, or you can use it to execute any kind of script that you want on the website. Okay, I mean, well, I don't want to say this, but this can actually be used for, well, a bit of hacking as well, ethical hacking. But, it's up to you how you want to use it. Because, well, this is kind of like that only. Pretty cool, I would say, yeah. And then basically somehow like you can ask it to click on the link to object detection basically and take a screenshot. As I said, you can take screenshots, you can use it for summary, you can ask it to do anything. You can ask it to also scroll down as well. All interactions are supported basically. Anything you want to do on a website. So it's I mean pretty cool though. One more example I can think of using this is basically, when I went to I went to Australia to get basically a ticket for my favorite K-pop concert. So at that time, it was very difficult because everybody was using bots to get into it. So, I mean, I didn't know MCP server at that time, but if I had known, then probably I could have used it to get a ticket and as soon as possible in the very front. So, I mean, I did get a ticket, a VIP ticket, but it was not at the front basically. So, I mean, try using it. It's very, very cool. Okay, so scroll down and summarize the content, summarize the page. There you go. These are some of the examples that I'm also telling you to use. And also you can add for your users to use as well if you wanted to, spread it out and to deploy and ask everyone to use it. Friends, family, whatever. st.markdown would be multi-step tasks. And then st.markdown would be again, like do many more things, like navigate to Wikipedia. Okay, so just navigate to this website only. I'm just going to copy and paste here and navigate here, and then like do complex multi-step tasks as well. So these LLMs are pretty powerful and they will be able to understand and break down into all the smaller tasks, smaller tool calls that will be necessary for this. Okay, and then also maybe in the next one, just say to summarize, scroll down and summarize. Summarize the Wikipedia page. And then after that, basically, whatever you want to give, like this fine, it basically like give a disclaimer as well that, that this agent basically uses Puppeteer as the MCP server to control the real browser. Agent uses, we are going to see how it does it. So don't worry about it. It's very simple. Just two functions we'll need: setup agent and use agent and run agent basically. Yeah, whatever, both are same. And to control the browser. Browser. That's it. Next thing is going to be Then query would be equal to st.textArea is going to be your command. And then placeholder would be basically ask the user to navigate to a website and do some actions on the website. Ask the agent to navigate to websites and interact with them in however way they want. Everything is supported by this Puppeteer MCP server. And okay, so now comes the important part. Let's get into it. Let's remove this for now so that we have a larger space to understand the code. Okay, so first thing is going to be if initialized. So first we need to initialize. If initialized is not in st.session_state, then we are going to need to initialize it. What we are going to do is, so session state dot initialized equal to false. We are going to set it to false. Next thing we are going to do is initialize our MCP app. So as I mentioned, if you remember, the MCP app is the is provided by our Puppeteer. Let me just show it once again. So MCP app is something that is provided by our last mile AI by the MCP agent library that we imported and we installed by the pip install. And this one manages the entire global state and app configuration. We are going to initialize the agent. We are going to initialize the augmented LLM, and we are going to use this generate str command to get the result to call generate internally and use the result as our output. Okay, so as you understand, let's come back here and let's initialize the MCP app. So st dot session state dot MCP app is going to be MCP app and name is going to be Streamlit MCP agent. Next thing is going to be st.session_state.mcp context is going to be none. We don't have any context as of now, so it's going to be none. And agent app is also going to be none because when we first start initializing it and we start calling it, and then we will initialize the agent. Okay, so but we need to get it as a part of our initialization session state. We'll need that. So we are going to do it MCP agent app. That is going to be none. And then st.session_state.browser agent is also going to be none because we are going to use Puppeteer here later on when we are actually searching the website. Now LLM is also going to be none. So this is all none right now because we're just initializing these variables, MCP agent app, browser agent, LLM. These all we are initializing. That is why. And st.session_state.loop would be async IO. Loop would be the async IO.new event loop because this entire thing needs to be asynchronously handled. Otherwise, I told you, synchronously means that UI and the web browser, everything will become very slow and very weird. So event loop needs to be there, which runs in a different kind of thread basically. And then async IO.set event loop is going to be st.session_state.loop. That's it. So we are going to set the event loop like this. And next thing would come as setting up the agent. So now next thing that comes is async def setup agent. This is going to be if not st.session_state.initialized. Exactly. So now we are going to initialize it properly. So that one was just, to set up every variable and to get everything, the event loop going on and to do it like sort of like, an infinite loop unless and until we close the browser, because the user might ask it to do instructions on and on and on. And, go to this website, do this, summarize this, change the color, run this script, go to another website, do everything, and remember what you did there, take a summary of everything. So that's all up to the user basically. So that is why we'll need the event loop to continuously go on until and unless the user shuts down the website completely. So, and if you like later on use Firebase to add login, logout state, then on logout, you can also, finish this set event loop and to ask it to close the loop basically. And on login again, you start a new loop. Okay. So, let's do this session state dot MCP context. So this is very important. This is going to be st.session state dot MCP app dot run. Okay, I think I made a spelling mistake. Context would be MCP app dot run. We are asking the MCP app to get started. This one, Streamlit agent app, and we are asking it to get started. Next thing is going to be st.session state dot MCP agent app. We are now going to initialize the agent. We initialized the app already before, and now we are going to initialize everything after that. So remember, this is async. So you will need the await keyword to wait for the initialization of the agent before we do anything else. MCP, because suppose if it's not done and you are asking in the next line to use the agent, it will throw an error. So that is why you need to wait for it to finish. Session state and dot a enter. Okay, so what does this a enter do? So it basically, uses Python. Python has some async context manager pattern. So it uses it. This is a enter is that to establish the connection to the MCP servers. So basically it creates a runtime app context. Because it's running it, you need an app to have all the context, all the state management, all the tool calls that have been done, all the results of the tool call, all the tools that are available to pass it in, which is the OpenAI API key, which is the the LLM that we are using, everything. So that is why we'll need this context first thing, and the next thing is the async context manager pattern, which is the a enter to establish the connection to the MCP servers. Next thing we are going to do is create an agent named browser, and which will connect to the Puppeteer MCP server, which basically enables the browser automation. And we are going to provide the detailed instructions that the Puppeteer server, which uses MCP, which uses the OpenAI inside it to the augmented LLM, basically uses it to basically generate all the tool calls with the proper arguments. So for that, we are providing in the prompt. So it will become more clear as we start writing the code. So session state dot browser agent would be agent, and then name equal to browser, and instruction would be equal to just write something you want. You are a helpful web browsing assistant that can interact with websites using Puppeteer, and basically you provided a basic idea of what all it can do: navigate to websites and perform browser actions. Yeah, so this is very important. This is basically asking the OpenAI LLM to, what are the functions that are available to it to give an overall like system prompt kind of thing. Overall, like what exactly we can do with this and what are the different browser actions, what everything you can do, like you can suggest to ask it to do. So we can do click, scroll, or type, or, fill the forms. I'm going to add everything here. So, or, extract information from the page. This is very, very useful. Like this is very, very useful from web pages, and then take screenshots. Screenshots of page elements, how they're arranged. You can even ask it, I just had this idea. You can even ask it to, give a website and to take a screenshot of the entire website and then generate a clone of the website. Like, for example, a clone of Spotify, clone of Netflix, or whatever you want. That is like a really good project idea that I can tell you to do. And Well, up to you if you want to use it or not. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And take screenshots of page elements and then provide concise summaries, concise summaries of that content when using Markdown. And then basically also you can ask it to follow multi-step browsing sequences to achieve some kind of result. Multi-step browsing sequences. It's important to give this because we also have this written, right? Multi-step tasks. That is why it's important to ask it. It's pretty powerful LLM. It can do whatever, but this is a pretty cool thing to ask it to do. Complete tasks. There you go. And then finally, yeah, that's it. And then next thing that comes is the server name, because obviously that's the most important thing. So server names is going to be Puppeteer. So how would it know? How would it know where it is hosted? How to use it? What is the, how, I mean, you need to basically run it in your local environment, which will then make requests to it. And then that will call the official MCP Puppeteer server. We cannot connect to the direct official MCP Puppeteer server. So for that, we basically need the YML file. The YML file will provide you to the instructions to how to run it, which MCP server to connect to, and everything like needed for that. I'll come to that, but that is what we'll need basically for the YML file. You know what? Let's write the YML file first. So then we have a better idea of exactly what we want for our this YML. Cool. Let's just write that first. So it would be MCP agent.config.yaml. So this is the config that will be used for our MCP server, basically. So first thing is basically going to be execution engine. As I said, execution engine is going to be async.io. That is the Python module that we are using for the entire event loop. Now, next thing is going to be logger. So this is basically important because, well, logging is important to know what are the tools that are available, what are the output that's coming, if there's any error or something in between. So that is why logs are very important. So the two things that will need logging is the console and file. So, adding all the output and summary to a text file and extracting all the information from the text file and then putting it into a file, reading from a file and then asking it to go to this website, something like that. So all the transports like console, definitely, whatever we are printing and all, and also file. And level is going to be debug. Next thing is going to be progress display as true, because we want our model to basically, our Python, whatever, the application to basically show us whenever any kind of progress is happening on a particular task or something, because these like getting all the elements from the MCP server and all, and streaming, if the model supports streaming, will actually be essential to show the progress display, because otherwise user interaction will not be good. The user will get irritated. What is happening? I don't know. So that is why that is important. And path settings is going to be basically path pattern. That would be just, put everything into a logs folder, make the logs folder and put everything there. So MCP agent, and then whatever unique ID, because you might need to run it multiple times. Unique ID.jsnl, and we'll need the unique ID to be the timestamp. Always the best idea. That's it, timestamp. Exactly. And timestamp format would be, these are all like very specific kind of YML file description, like YML file format, and how you need to write the YML file. And YML files are very important. I don't think they can be replaced anytime soon. So you need to understand how to write and read a YML file properly. So, and then it would be %y, %m, %d, and then also we'll need %h and %m and %s. for, yeah, year, month, day, hour, minute, second. That's it. Next thing would be MCP, and servers would be Puppeteer, and this would be command would be npx, and then args would be y, and @model context protocol / server Puppeteer. Exactly. This is what I was saying, that this is the actual MCP server. So basically, you will need to run it in our local environment using npx. The npx basically node. Node is a kind of thing that is used to run all the libraries, all the MCP server, or any kind of server. Basically, you have heard about node servers, right? So Node.js is a library that is used to run all these servers, and we are going to host it and run the MCP server locally, which will in turn connect to the official MCP server Puppeteer 1 online, and then that will give us all the necessary tool calls and everything that we need to do. So this part is extremely important. Even in Cursor also, we need to provide this part if we are using the MCP servers. And so this part is very, very important. This part is the main thing why we need this file. Another thing that we are going to need here is the OpenAI. So the model that we are going to use. So default model we are going to use is GPT. Let's use 4.1 mini. So 2025-04-14. So the 14th April one, the latest one we are going to use. You can also use anything you want. I'm telling you again and again, you can use anything you want, but you need to understand that whether the tool call is supported or not. Just check once online if tool call is supported or not for the GPT, and then use it. That's it. Great. Now let's come back to our main.py and let's finish this up. So we have the server name as Puppeteer. And then next thing is going to be, server name is going to be Puppeteer. And then the next thing is going to be await st.session_state.browser agent .initialize. And the next thing is going to be st.session_state.llm would be await st.session_state.browser agent .attach LLM. This is going to be OpenAI augmented LLM. So basically, this is very important because we need to attach the LLM. As I said, this augmented LLM will need. Let's look at this. Yeah, look at this. The augmented LLM OpenAI.py. So let's just look at this function a little bit that we are using. So we're using the OpenAI LLM, this one, and convert message. Mainly thing is to generate. Yeah. Look at this. So we have the request params. We are going to provide the request params as use history as true. You can also provide other things, tokens, max tokens, temperature, whatever you want. And this is the OpenAI client. Look at this. It's going to get the API key that we already have in our environment. We need to provide. I'll tell you how to do that. But yeah, already have it in our environment. Then if params use history, then we need to provide the entire history. And then system prompt, and then all the available tools it's able to get from the MCP server. And then it's going to select the model as we provided in the params default model. And then all these arguments is providing all the tools that are available, and model the messages that we said, like this is what we want to do, and these are the things that it's supported, and these are the tool calls that are there. And then basically, if it's reasoning, then it also gives all the completion tokens and all the reasoning thinking part that is given. I don't think ours is thinking, but yeah. And then all the responses that it's getting is going to provide, and then all the tool calls. See, this is going to execute the tool call. Whatever tool call, handle tool call method in Puppeteer is going to do that and execute everything, and then it's going to provide the responses. And generate str basically means it's going to call the generate and then get all the responses, and then basically it's going to finally give all the text as the output that we are going to display on our screen. I hope you understand this. This is the function. This is the class that we are going to use today. Next thing is going to be logger would be st.session_state.mcp agent app.logger. And then the next thing is going to be tools would be await st.session_state.browser agent .list tools. There you go. And therefore, it has all the listed. It has listed all the tools, basically all the logger we have got, because we want the logger. We want the logger to work out. This is the logger that we said we want it to be added to all the log folder. And this is the tools that we have. It's going to list all the tools that we have that are present in our browser agent, basically. Tools from all the servers aggregated. So, all the server names, if you remember, you only provided Puppeteer. You can provide many more and based on our needs. So all the tools that will be provided as compiled together in this list of tools. Okay, now the next thing that comes is just do logger.info, because, well, I want to know what tools are available. This case we know, I showed you already, but in case in some other cases, if I don't know, there is a good idea to provide show all the tools, and data would be equal to tools. There you go. And then next thing that comes is the initialized is going to be now true, because you already have initialized it. Initialized is going to be true. There you go. Now it's going to be exception as E, and then it's going to be return if error during initialization. Str E. And then it's going to be return none. What do you want it to return anyway? It's going to be just setting up the agent, right? We don't need to return it. And so initialized is true. That's it. And now the most important thing is run the MCP agent, and then our work is done. And I will show you a perfect demo of how it works. It's really mind-blowing and really amazing. And well, you will see, this is the magic of coding. That's why I really love coding. Yeah. Okay, so now the next thing comes is the run MCP agent. We're going to provide the message, which is basically the message that we are providing here. If you remember, we had a query. Yeah, this is the command one. This is the message that we are providing here in the run MCP agent. So if not os.getEnv my OpenAI API key, then obviously, well, nothing can be done, because you need the API key to do anything, any calls to OpenAI, opened LLM and everything. So next thing is return error, no API key. No API key. And next thing is basically try. Error would be await setup agent. And then if error, then you are going to do return error. Obviously. And then next thing comes is that result is going to be await st.session .llm.generate str. As I told you, so generate str is the only thing that's important, and it's going to provide the message that we have passed in, this message that we are passing in. As I told you, like you remember, right? This generate str is going to call the generate. Here also I mentioned generate structure, generate str. Yeah, this is the one that we are calling, and this is going to call the generate internally. So we don't want to go into too much detail. We just know that it's going to do everything that is needed on the backend. As I mentioned, like it calls you need to understand what it exactly does though. So it calls the OpenAI and then gives the tool call and then executes the tool call and gives the final answer as the result after executing all the tool calls and doing everything that is needed. Generate str. So the message is going to be message, and the request params is going to be request params, where we are going to use history as true, because this is important. We need to have the whole conversation history. Otherwise, it's not an LLM, it's not a chatbot, it's useless in one word. So return result. There you go. Generate str already, so we don't need to convert anything to string format. So exception as E is going to be return error as str E. There you go. So this is done. And the next and the only thing that is left is basically how to run the command in this entire event loop, basically. So this is what we are going to do. So now if st dot button, we'll need a button to basically run the command. Run command. And then this type is going to be primary because it's the main thing of our application. And then this is just something, we are doing it to make it look a bit better. So this is going to be with st.spinner. We'll need a spinner. I told you it's important to have a good user interaction, user interface, because otherwise this becomes very, very finicky. We don't want that. We want to show a spinner showing that the user is thinking, all things are doing in the backend. Otherwise, the user might think that, it's not a good user experience, basically. You need to think about user experience all the time. So processing your result does take time. It's not like instantaneous. So, and then finally, when the result has come in, so st.session_state.loop.run until complete, it would be run MCP agent as the query. You can understand the query that we provided here. This one. There you go. This is going to do the entire thing. I could have also done it in a main function, like if name equal to main, but this is also fine. It's not going to, cause anything or any issues or anything. It's fine. Markdown would be response. And then st.markdown would be result. And, there you go. So this is the entire thing. I could have written this inside a main function as well, but that's up to you. You can use a Django Flask server, whatever you want to, wrap this up. But otherwise, I would say that Streamlit is more than enough. You just need to deploy it. I'll tell you the steps to deploy, but this is more than enough. This is absolutely perfect. Now, the only thing that is remaining is basically, I hope you can understand, is basically first we're going to install everything. Pip install. Sorry, requirements.txt. Yeah. So I have already installed it because I ran it before, but you will need to install all the things first. Now that you have done this, now the next thing is very simple, basically. Oh, okay. One thing I forgot, you need to export the OpenAI API key. I'm not going to show my API key, but it's very simple. Just go onto the website and then generate an API key of your own, and that should be good enough. So let's write the API key here. Yeah, there you go. So I have done it and I have run it and press enter. Basically, it will initialize everything. Now the next thing and the most important thing that comes is Streamlit run main.py. Perfect. Yeah. So this one you ran Streamlit run main.py, and this is going to generate. This is the entire thing. And now, well, it is not very good looking because we did not spend much time with the UI, but you can make it like fantastic if you want to using all this GPT and Claude. Okay, so this is all the sidebar that we added, and this one you can remove the sidebar, add it, and it's pretty good looking as well. Good functionally as well. So you added this, you added the browser MCP agent as well. Now your command, we are going to ask the agent. So what I'm going to ask, let's ask something cool. I don't know, let's ask it to go to here, last mile. So last mile AI has provided this MCP agent library, the open source one completely. So let's do that maybe, or maybe let's go to wikipedia.org. Let's see some Wikipedia article on climate change. Okay. So this one, let's ask it to go to this website. Go to Wikipedia. Let's close it in case it affects our browser somehow, because I want to see it to do it like completely independently. So go to this Wikipedia climate change and scroll down to the. Okay, let's just go there. First, let's open it up and let's see. Okay. Let's see what happens. Processing. Yeah, see. It opened it. Perfect. Let's see. This is bit of like because the headless browser is a bit finicky, but this is perfect. See, it opened it by itself. We're not going to do anything with it. So next thing, let's ask it. See, this is the response that we got. What would you like me to do next? I have navigated the page. Now, let's see what's happening. We will not do anything. Let's just keep it there and let's ask it to scroll to the bottom. Scroll to the bottom. Let's see what happens. I've scrolled to the bottom. Yeah, see, let's scroll to the bottom. I didn't do anything. There you go. I will not touch it. Let's ask it to summarize. Take a screenshot. Summarize the content. Ask it to summarize the content. Let's see. It's going to provide a summary of the entire content. It's going to take some time because it's a pretty big website actually. Yeah, here's a summary. So fast. Climate change, global warming, and 2024 is a warm. Perfect. Summary of the Wikipedia page on climate change. Just look at it. It's amazing. Now let's try something. Click on any link and go to that link. Let's ask that. Click on, it's so fun. Click on any link on the page and go to that link. Let's see what happens. First link available in the content section, navigated to that page. Let's see. See, it went to climate, variability, and change. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Like literally you can do whatever you want with this tool. Then you can use it to log in. You can use it to fill out all these boring forms, feedback forms, whatever. You can use it for any other purpose, literally any other purpose, for ethical hacking as well. It's up to you how you want to use this. Very powerful thing, and it's completely free. Just the API key, OpenAI, you will need. Obviously, you will need that for everything. So there you go. It was a perfect example of how you can use this MCP server, Puppeteer MCP server, which is completely free, to use it for any kind of purpose you want. You can use it to book your flights. You can use it to log in. You can use it to store the session state. You can also use it to, make a website that you can distribute among your friends and everything, friends, family, among customers, paying customers as well. So these are all the starting things. Like you can achieve so many things, literally. So all the best. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any doubts, do let me know. I'm active on YouTube as well. So there you go. Okay, bye, take care.